Welcome, everyone. I'm John Ryan for the Predictive Playbook channel. You you are watching this special edition on Sunday, July 31st. I can hardly believe that the summer is half over, gentlemen. Jesse Schule, you probably know because he's been on a couple hundred shows with me already in his lifetime. God bless his soul for doing that. But we welcome another elite guest here. Josh is with us. He's in the house, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. He has an MBA. He has many securities licenses. He's a money manager. So right there, you know why I was attracted to his way of handicapping. The way he looks at things are, kind of similar to my experiences with Wall Street. So he manages clients with net worths of $50 million and above. So I'm not one of his clients. I don't think
You
Jesse
soon
probably
will
could
be,
be.
probably. Bring you guys along both. I'm sure you guys have pipe money, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. And over the last decade, in terms of sports, he's made 71 grand on 66% winners in
That
college
was last year,
football.
college football.
Last year, yes. I got you right here with the notes I
I'm doing
took
my
down.
college football previews, and
Yep.
people have been going crazy about the Fun Belt preview I did. I shot for the Sun Belt.
Sun Belt's great.
Sun Belt Conference.
And then he made 100 grand on 60% regular season, 76% in the playoffs. He also owns ESBC podcast teaching business and financial concepts using sports betting as a basis. And one of the other things, because he has these security licenses, you can't pay him for his sports betting advice. So you're getting 100% honest, grassroots type of stuff. And I really like it.
Exactly. Right? Elon Musk said that with the truth, right? Once you have the truth, you can predict outcomes. But we're not on the Elon Musk level. We can only get close to the truth and figure out how people are lying to us.
Yeah. I mean, that's so true. That's so true. Well, we're going to talk a little football here. Welcome to both of you for sure. Jesse needs no introduction. You guys know who he is. You can get his picks over at thepredictiveplaybook.com and several other places, along with mine on the same site, which is the site that I created, and I created this whole channel. So it's an honor to always have Jesse on the show, and have both of you on for a Sunday like this is a special treat. And we'll have some, this will be like a green shelf type of show too, because we're going to start out talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, how the injury to their center Jensen is going to impact the team, and what we see for down the road. Is this team still going to be in the Super Bowl? Is this team still going to be a contender for the Super Bowl? I can tell you this, Jensen is one of the best in the NFL, period, especially not just snapping the ball in the shotgun. But if you look at some of his tape, which I did do some research on, he is able to get out there and pick up that robber on, that's blitzing from the blind side or whatever side it is. And he does an incredible job at full speed, snapping the ball and then getting out there so they don't have to use a running back to block that guy blitzing. So now it looks like we're going to have a rookie snapping the ball to him, and he comes out of Notre Dame, which is a pretty good pedigree to start with, but rookie having to learn all the complexities of the game. A rookie with the speed of the game is so much faster than college level.
They signed free agent J.C. Tedder, and then Jason Light with his network, and then the co-offensive coordinator of Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, running that old Schembechler offense. It's funny, when it's Tom Brady's 50% of the playbook because they bring in the three tight ends, right?
Yep.
Greg Augman, people should follow him. He's been on the podcast, beat writer for The Athletic for Tampa Bay, talks about Brady controlling the offense during training camp, cursing people out, making people run sprints. Believe me, he's going to be in the face of those three centers. He's going to be in the face of, Brian Leftwich, everybody kind of designing the offensive line scheme for each particular opponent. I mean, Brady's been in the NFL 21 years, won 7 Super Bowls. Nobody's going to backtalk him, right? He's like Nick Saban in Alabama. Nobody's backtalking him when he's saying something. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. Coach Bowles saying that Jensen's coming back for the playoff push. So I'm sure these guys are going to coach him up. But again, it's going to be depending on the opponent and week to week. I wouldn't overreact over this injury of Jensen, even though Jensen obviously is an elite guy, elite center, but he's also going to be around coaching up people.
The whole situation reminds me of the relationship that Peyton Manning had with Jeff Saturday, and that was like a little marriage type thing there as well. But Jesse, what do you think with the injury to Jensen? I know you weren't too high on Tampa Bay coming into the season, that they would underperform their wins total, which is still at 11.5, by the way. What do you think this does to them?
Well, it doesn't change my mind. Like I said, I had them going under 11.5 regardless. I understand that they picked up some guys to replace Jensen. They've got that highly touted rookie out of Notre Dame, but it still can't be a positive. Jensen was expected to be a bit of a anchor on that at that position, and the guys they got, I'm not sure that they're going to be as reliable as he was. But I mean, essentially, I'm looking at one of the oldest teams in the NFL. I'm looking at Tom Brady at 44 years old, and I know a little bit about being 44 years old. I mean, I'm 46. I'm not playing in the NFL. I could, barely make it to the corner store some days. And I mean, I know everybody thinks Brady's in great shape. He's got that TB12 brand, and he is. I mean, he looks great. He looks like he's 34. But it's not a matter of if Tom Brady gets old and can no longer perform. It's a matter of when. And people have been saying it for 5 years. I remember some of the pundits said, "Oh, it's over. Brady's done." And they've been wrong every year. But one of these years, they're going to be right. And the drop-off comes suddenly. And we can look at the past. We look at Brett Favre. At the age of 38, he threw for 4,000 yards and 39 touchdowns for Minnesota. The following season, he comes back, throws for 2,500 yards and 11 touchdowns. So it just crashed. You look at Peyton Manning, same thing, 34 years old, 10 years younger than Brady is now. Throws for 5,000 yards and 39 touchdowns. The next year he comes back, throws for 2,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. So, again, it just went from peak to crashed. Now, those guys aren't in the shape that Brady is in now. They didn't have the training regime. But Brady's 10 years older than Manning was.
Good point.
6 years older than Favre was. It's going to happen eventually. It may not be this year, but the guy's not going to play in the NFL and be the best quarterback in the league till he's 50, and he's getting closer every year.
Playing devil's advocate, let's look at the difference, right? Favre's a drug addict, drunk, right? So his body was going to break down. And then Peyton Manning had a neck injury, right? So those neck injuries are really tough with his car accidents. And Tom Brady, kind of in a way, that's why they clashed, right? He reminds me of Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, and the fact that he has like 10 jobs. He's the assistant scout. He's the assistant GM. So he's also designing the offense in the summer. People think, oh, they go week to week. No. In May, Brady is in there with Brian Leftwich. Arians has dementia. That's why he's not coaching anymore. So I don't know how much value he can put, but he's designing the offense. He's picking the players. So he's kind of in a way cheating, right? Those guys didn't have that much influence and design over the whole organization. I'm hearing about Brady flying to see a guy from college, the guy they got from Notre Dame. He flew down there to the Notre Dame facility to work the guy out, and he decided to draft him, right? So that sounds like a GM to me. So it's a whole totally different situation than what happened to those different individuals, right? But John Smiley, because he's like, he's using fundamental analysis, which is corporate governance, right? How the structure and the corporate governance in order to come out with outcomes of what's going to happen and why Tom Brady at an advanced age is kind of mitigating that with him being a control freak, right? It has its positives and its negatives. Mostly positive.
Points.
Right? I got John Calipari up there, refused to lose. Ultimately,
I don't disagree with anything you said, but that's probably what's bought him an extra 10 years on Manning and an extra 6 years on Favre. So he's already, all the things that you mentioned has got him to where he's at now. How much further is it going to get him? Like I said, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Now, it's been a losing proposition to gamble, to bet against Tom Brady. It's been that way for a long time. It might be that way again this year. But the that number of 11.5, there's only two teams with a total that high. It's Tampa and Buffalo, right? Is there
Hey,
any other
Gronk,
teams with an
Yep.
11.5 out there?
yeah,
No.
11.5 is too high. Yeah. The thing with Gronk not being there is that really good offensive coordinators, guys that know how to design offenses like Brady, every defense you're in is the wrong defense. But now when he goes like this and does a hand signal, nobody's going to know what he's talking about. Gronk knew because he played with him for years, knew how to shift, knew how to go here, knew how to talk to the guy there. He doesn't have that this year. Chris Godwin, smart guy from Penn State. It's going to be important. OJ Howard, God bless him. He's a good guy, but he's dumb as a box of rocks. You need smart guys around him. That's why Cameron Brate's very important. Harvard graduate, right?
Yep.
We talk a lot about it on my podcast, marginal utility. There's really not that much difference physically between these guys. But between the ears and from the neck up, with Tom Brady, you need a Cameron Brate. Smart guy who picks up things fast. Scotty Miller, also like that. Mike Evans, he puts in the work. He shows up there in April to Tom Brady's house because he's not as smart as Scotty Miller or Cameron Brate. They can pick things up fast. He needs more time, but he's putting in the work. But when you're in that amygdala brain, your panic brain in a game, and there's an audible, Mike Evans is going to freeze, right? Cameron Brady was calm. Gronk already knew. They had that telepathy going. So that's going to be missing from the Tampa Bay offense this year.
As long as the receiving core can stay healthy, they've got plenty of talent there. I'd be more concerned about the backfield. I'm not a big Leonard Fournette fan as far as solely depending on him. Right. And hearing that he comes into camp at 260 pounds and then immediately sheds it by going into the sauna, it's a really bad omen. He's 27 years old. He's had attitude problems in the past. The last couple of years in Jacksonville, he had some turbulent times. And if you look at the Bucs Super Bowl run, Ronald Jones was the go-to guy in that Super Bowl season, and that hit to the depth chart in the backfield, I think, is a potential disaster.
Big time.
What do you think of Rachaad White, though, stepping in if Fournette becomes a problem? I thought that was an unbelievably good draft pick by the Bucs.
In a way, it doesn't matter sometimes who the running back is because Brady gets you in the right play. He knows how to count numbers. He knows what play to use against that defense. So that mitigates whether your running back sucks or not. He just needs to follow orders. Listen. And that's the key. It's crazy as it sounds. That is the key to these guys. Unfortunately, right? 80% of professional athletes, guys in the NFL, end up broke, homeless after they leave the NFL because of lack of cognitive abilities, right? And unfortunately, they manifest themselves sometimes. And sometimes you can predict that, right? With Green and Arizona, you knew that AJ Green, cocaine addict, Jerry Jeudy, cocaine addict, are going to have problems on the field sometimes. You can predict that sometimes without things being equal, right? So even though you're in the right play, and Brady calls the right play and tells you the right thing, is this guy going to listen? And is he going to execute? Right? And that's why I love going to training camp. I'm going to training camp on Monday with the Rams and then going to the Chargers training camp. And you see the nonverbal communication. Is the guy listening? Is, they telling him something? You see guys on the sideline rolling their eyes. You get a lot of information. So people go to training camps, look at body language, and look away from the play, the reaction of the other players, and you'll get a lot of information. Write it down. And then the hardcore
Absolutely.
fans. So much from the hardcore fans, diehard fans who are there at training camp. That's a lot. Take your notebook and learn, and then monetize it during the season.
Yeah, in the Philadelphia camps, you also watch the fans' body language because they basically tell you the whole story.
Big time.
In excessively. But looking at the comparisons between Manning and Favre, and I agree with everything you guys said, especially with the age gap between who Brady is now versus those two guys when they fell apart. I sometimes think that I could go out under center with this receiving core of Mike Evans, and Julio Jones is obviously there to get a ring.
Right.
That there's no money in his head. He wants the ring, and this is his best chance, one of his last chances, really, to get that ring. He was on that team with Atlanta that was in the Super Bowl, and I'll never forget that catch. That game was over when he caught that ball down the sidelines, and then for whatever reason they decided to run these stupid plays. They had the best field goal kicker on the planet, and we know what happened. But now, he's kind of on the other side of the equation. So, those starting three, receivers, I don't see anybody in the league even coming close. And, Brett Favre really never had a elite receiver. Maybe he had one, but never three. I mean, all three of these guys are all pros. And then the backups are equally as good.
It's his body, right? So he's going to destroy people in the slot. That's a first down. He's just going to run whoever's in the slot in there.
And that's Godwin.
He's going to make an adjustment, but he's going to destroy people in the slot. He's going to be reading defenses with Brady and then going to the spot. He tells them he's going to kill zone. He's going to find the spot. He's surely going to catch the ball. And I don't know what you guys think, but my wife's the psychotherapist, not me. I pretend to be. But I think people, as they get older, they default to their youth, right? And Brady, with his Bo Schembechler offense, with 3 tight ends, really Julio Jones is your third tight end. And he's going to revert to what he did in Michigan, right? You watch that bowl game, Michigan, it's on YouTube, Michigan against Alabama. Orange Bowl, Tom Brady. He looks like Tom Brady, and he's running those 3 tight ends. And then tight end gets up, goes to the slot. Bam. And Julio Jones being old right now with his body and the way he works out, he on some plays can act like a tight end and put a block on someone, right? And it's going to be a surprise. A running play with Julio Jones pancaking one of your lighter 4.25 linebackers out there who are great athletes, but man, Julio Jones is going to go downhill and smash him. Right. And remember, O.J. Howard and Julio Jones have been talking already, Alabama, Nick Saban guys. And Julio Jones is halfway to knowing the offense. He'll know Brady. All right. So it's very exciting to see those kind of Bo Schembechler, Nick Saban, smash mouth. I want to pancake some guy. I want to destroy a guy in the slot, Julio Jones stuff with Brady. Yep. Especially in division games.
Yep. I agree. Let's move on to new coaches. It ties the record for most new coaches in a season with 10. 2006, 1997, and 1978 were the other years. And I did a little research on this, and I'll get right to the point. And we can take this game, and you can either, buy it with me, or you can sell it against me. So what I have here is it's a little betting system. It's very simple. If you have your pens and papers out, you want to definitely write this one down. It's a week 1 situational angle for new head coaches. The first thing is that the team involved has not won their week 1 game in at least 4 seasons. Okay, that's your first clue to what the team is. There's 5 of those actually that exist that have not won their opening game in at least 4 seasons. The team must be priced as an underdog in the week 1 matchup, and the team has a new coach. That's all there is to it. Straight up, the record is not good. 3-12 straight up, but they are 11-4 to the spread, and that's 71.4% winning bets. And the team is the New York Giants plus 6.5 against the Tennessee Titans. Boy, oh boy, would that be something if the Giants actually went on the road in week 1 and gave their new head coach a win. So I actually have bet the Giants at plus 6.5. So I'm going to start with Josh. And are you buying this with me or are you selling it?
Man, I love betting bad teams early in the season, right? Because they have to use their whole playbook. And I did a really good interview, believe it or not, with Houston Baptist head coach Vic Schule, who is offensive coordinator at the time. He's now the offensive coordinator at Texas Tech, Kid Kiley. And we talked about hiding plays for later in the season. So Brable, from the Bill Belichick tree, both two Bill Belichick guys going against each other, running exactly the same schemes to each other, right? What does that say to us? It says to us under, right? Because both of them have been training camp against the same scheme. First game of the season, same scheme, right? Except that the Giants can go +1, right? D-ball, he loves playing +1. He won +1 with Nick Saban when he won the national title as the offensive coordinator there, and then Josh Allen +1, right? If a quarterback can make 3 first downs with his legs, the team wins 70% of the time. And D-ball is making what? $3 million as a head coach just on that concept. Just with +1 Allen. So him against Henry, love the under. So right now, I would say wait for the public to bet it to 7. I'll take you 7.5. Giants, it'll be 10-3, right? Boom. We win our 7.5. +7.5.
There you go. So he's with me, Jesse. I actually think this line is a funny line, 6.5. Tennessee has been a playoff team. The Giants have been I don't even know what the word is to correctly describe their lack of success, but it has not been good, not even close to playoff contention, except for that one year, which was ridiculous because someone had to win the NFC East. But are you with me, against me? And if you're against me, you got to tell me why.
And if I'm with you, I got to tell you why. But I'll tell you what. I'll see your Giants +6.5, and I'll raise with a sprinkle on the money line. Absolutely love it. I'm not high on Tennessee this year. I don't see any positives for Tennessee. I look at Derrick Henry. He was injured for the majority or the half of last season. His age, the way they've been running him into the ground, the weapons they're surrounding him with, the regression of Tannehill. I'm not big on Tennessee this year. I think they're going to take a step backwards. And the Giants, with Saquon in a contract year, with the 2 draft picks they got in the first round last year, I don't know a lot about the coach. Sounds like Josh is a lot more familiar with Daboll than I am, but he's got to be better than Joe Judge. And, and Daniel Jones, the guy, I mean, some days he looks like Josh Allen. Some days he looks like Ryan Leaf. I think it's worthwhile taking a gamble on him and hoping you catch him on that day that he looks like Josh Allen.
And he has a much better offensive line this year too. Give him a little credit there. But yeah, I think that's a very interesting game for week 1. Especially for like the Circa contest, because as Josh said, the public is going to be all over Tennessee at 6.5. I don't really see that line dropping to 6. And like he said, it's more likely to go to 7 or 7.5 by game time. But as I always like to say, you can bet 50% of your bet now, and then look for that 7.5 in the weeks to come. That's the advantage of betting early. What else do we have here with NFL?
You were going to talk about the Eagles.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, how could I forget? Yeah, I even have my Philly shirt on for the occasion. But
I want to see what you guys think. Because this is my premise, right?
I run a sentiment application in Python. I'm one of those certified Twitter developers, so I get a good look at the back end.
Oh, nice.
And just like in investing, you get 80% bulls. That's usually where the tops happen. You get 20% bulls. That's where the bottoms happen. And the same thing in sports betting. You get an overwhelming number of people that are saying one thing, and it doesn't mean that they're dumb. It just means that herd mentality. You want to be aware of it, and then find out if it is a proper fade. Sometimes the public is going to be right, obviously. But with the Eagles, last year, I can tell you this. On the sentiment application that I run, and I showed this on the show, it was the lowest sentiment of any professional team in any sport the week prior to them going out to Detroit. The whole Philadelphia fan base was saying that the new head coach is ridiculous. He should be fired now. Hurts sucks. The whole team is bad. And it was really ugly. So what do? They go on the road and they won, 42-6? And that's just one example of many. And it doesn't work all the time. But I think the Eagles coming into this season have one of the lowest appreciation rates, I'll call it, from their fan base. And the expectations for once in Philadelphia are quite low. And, I think, and this sounds crazy, but I do think, with a place like Jesse likes Bet365, I like BetMGM. And one of the reasons we both like this is that you can make a bet on an MVP candidate. And if you're right during the first 6 weeks, they will offer you some kind of profit to get rid of it. And it's not going to be your payout that you could get riding it all the way into the sunset, but you're also going to book a profit, and you don't go broke booking profits. So Jalen Hurts, and I am sitting down, MVP, I got him at 50-1. So if they go 5-1, even 4-2, and it's because of his arm and his running, I think that line comes down by at least half. So again, let's go buy or sell that play. I obviously like over the wins total in the Philadelphia Eagles quite a bit. That's my number one team right now in terms of wins total bet. And wanted to know what you guys think. So let's start with Jesse this time, and then we'll hear what Josh has to say.
Well, I'm not with you. I'm not against you. I'm going to go 50-50 on this. I'm high on the Eagles, and you said that the sentiment is low for the Eagles, perhaps among fans, but among sharps, you see a lot of professional handicappers are picking the Eagles as their dark horse this year. You got the number one ranked offensive line at Pro Football Focus. I mean, that's obviously huge. They finished last season strong. I like some of the moves they've made in the offseason. I'm not a huge Jalen Hurts fan. The way things ended for him at Alabama, his charisma doesn't exactly exude MVP to me. I think he's good enough to win games with this team. I think the team's going to be good enough to certainly exceed expectations, go over their season win total, and probably win the division. I like the Eagles to win the division a lot better than Hurts to win MVP.
Good stuff.
Jalen Hurts is my pet peeve. And I did a podcast with Chase Nolan, starting quarterback for your Oregon State Beavers. And in that podcast, I showed the difference between a thrower and a passer. A passer is Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, Tom Brady. They lead you. They pass the ball to you. Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, they throw it at you. Didn't hurt in college because Jalen Hurts was thrown to wide open receivers, Jerry Jeudy, then CeeDee Lamb in Oklahoma. They were wide open all the time, air raid, right? With Coach Keeley, Texas Tech. Those guys. And now what we're hearing is that 80% of the NFL is running air raid concepts. And that's why the telepathy between receivers is important. And that's Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson have yet proven that they can read NFL defenses. And until they do so, I will monetize it. It's just one of those things. Black and white, man. Sometimes it's not overcomplicated. And the man cannot read defenses. They're telling him in the ear what to do, but you can't do that all the time. Sometimes the microphones go off. Sometimes you get in a panic and amygdala brain, and you need to be able to perform, right? And Lamar Jackson and Hurts has not been able to do so, right? Deshaun Watson has, and he's always been a good passer. He did that, Clemson. So until he does that, the jury's out on Jalen Hurts. I know Howie doesn't like him. Howie's one of those guys like Chip Kelly that they get divorced. They're married to the game of football. Belichick, right? Divorced, neglects his kids. That's why he has 2 of them on the staff. Married to the game of football. Has the money set up. I know his money manager. He doesn't want anything to know about money. It's all set up. All he does is football 24/7. He goes golfing by himself, Belichick, because all he wants to do is think about football. Doesn't want to talk to anybody. Howie Roseman's the same way, hard-headed. He doesn't like her. So that's going to be a problem too. Sabotage. He's playing great, 6-0, and here comes Howie. Hadn't slept 2-3 hours, and he's cursing out Hurts. Right?
True.
The mental side of it. How the way the organization is run. So that's why I think it's highly unlikely that Hurts would win a MVP.
Good stuff. With the
I
time we
agree
have
wholeheartedly.
remaining.
Yeah, passer or the thrower, man. So it's good to watch on Sundays. Who's the passer? Who's the thrower? Especially college football. College football, you can get away with it, right? Because you got the wide open receivers, and then usually the guy. I hate to say, but let's say for marketing reasons, for recruiting, your quarterback's black to get recruits in there, and he's inaccurate. But you got that +1. He can get you 3 first downs with his legs. And I'm talking about now. I'm going to do the AAC preview. You can't finish university, our rivals, because I went to UCF. But UCF, Gus Malzahn, he won the national title with Cam Newton, right? After Cam Newton. When Urban Meyer kicks you off the team, you're doing bad stuff. He was mugging people, stealing laptops. So then, whatever, Gus Malzahn comes with a bag. Here in California, we don't have bags anymore. Those paper bags. Gus Malzahn, $100,000, gets it to his dad. He's at Auburn. We're in that offense, +1 offense, wins national title. They get to the national title with I forgot the guy's name, but he was a straight up thrower. Dude, he just threw it at you. But he was gone, right? He can make big plays with his legs. That's what's going on with UCF, right? So that's Jalen Hurts in a nutshell. He was running, won the national title. What? D-ball. Your head coach was there with the Giants at Alabama running +1. But then Deshaun Watson beat him passing it while he was throwing it and trying to run it. And Deshaun Watson beat him. So basically that's like a pro game. So Hurts has to learn how to win that type of game, and he hasn't yet.
Yep, I agree 100%. And with the time we have remaining, which is a few minutes here, the Yankees are still in first place, but they're clinging to the best record in baseball as the Dodgers just continue to steamroll everybody in their wake. With the exception of last night, Clayton Kershaw lost, gave up, I guess, a 5 spot there in the middle inning. I guess it was like the 5th or 6th. But my question to you guys is pretty simple. Juan Soto, news has kind of gone quiet from what I've seen, and knowing my luck, there's a blockbuster trade that was just announced. But nevertheless, do the Yankees, because I did hear a rumor, later proven otherwise, that they had offered a huge package, and it also included second baseman Torres in the package to get Soto. They got Benintendi to bolster the the left side of the plate, but do the Yankees need? They're only like what are they? 11-11 for July, or is it one game under 500 for July? I forget. They've done poorly, especially if you bet them.
Right.
As I humbly stated on the show, right, Jesse? I said July 1. I said fade the Yankees, and there was a reason why. It was because they outscored their opponents by 150 or more runs. It's pretty rare that a team does that in the first couple of months of a season, but when they do, the market gets way ahead of itself, and you now have the Yankees averaging a -170 money line, regardless of who they're playing or where. And had you faded them every single game blindly, you'd be pretty happy right now. But do you think they need Soto to kind of take them into it? Because I think Houston beats them in a 7-game series. I'll put that out there. Let's start with Josh here and see what he says.
Right. I'm cheating a little bit, and there's because I do have a client who works for a major league front office team. But I'll say this: I don't start really wagering baseball until after the trade deadline, right? And I'll throw it back at you guys because it's always a debate between run suppression versus run creation. What do you want at specific times, right? They don't need Juan Soto, right? They got lights out bullpen on the back end. When you look at the analytic numbers, and then it's proprietary, right? My client had her proprietary analytics system stolen during that scandal between the St. Louis Cardinals and your Houston Astros. So what numbers is Cashman looking at, right? And do they make sense? Bill Harrington, who multi-millionaire, independent wealthy guy, owned many dealerships in New Hampshire and into New York, used to tell me, Josh, you know the numbers and you will know everything. So what is the analytics numbers? What is it? Juan Soto. So I'll throw it back at you guys. Cost-benefit analysis. Is the run suppression from John Soto versus the run creation John Soto make that difference to beat the Astros?
Jesse, you want to take that one first?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of an overkill. I wouldn't do it if I was the Yankees. I'd look towards adding, potentially another arm or another a sort of a spark plug, a Brocious type player, not this star.
That's a good,
not selling the future to pick up another big bat that you already have so many. What's the need there? I don't think the Yankees are going to win or lose come down to one more guy that can hit another home run, really.
Yeah, losing or winning is not based on one guy, that's for sure.
No, and if you're a
My
Yankee
thought was,
fan, if you're a Yankee fan, I think it would be very important who's hot in the minor leagues right now, because you can get a hot pitcher in the minor leagues who can really give you some important innings in the playoffs, who's lights out, who's hot, who's confidence, because it's a head, right? Yogi Berra, 90% of baseball, whatever, 80% mental. You got a guy
love it.
with a golden arm who's had no – that's why I like working with young people, because they haven't been screwed over yet, haven't backstabbed. They're so happy. They don't have this meanness that older people have. And one of those guys coming in and giving you some good innings in the playoffs gives you some depth to go ahead and really, because it's going to be a series of attrition against the Astros in the playoffs. If you can get the type of player Jason was talking about, get a position player and a golden arm that's been hot, it's had a great year in the minors, since the Yankees system is so has so much depth, right? I think that's what you do, really. And from a cultural standpoint, that's what you do, kind of keep it in-house.
Well, I'll mention this about my theory with this whole trade. It's a couple parts. First one is we have the extra wild card team, and I'm now convinced that that's why we haven't seen, as many trades already being booked, because there's not as many sellers. Normally I think the Giants would be selling, but now there's 3 wild cards, so they're still there. Look at Baltimore. I think they are a tremendous bet to make the playoffs. They have a very good bullpen right now, and the chemistry is obviously very good on that team. However, there's a guy named Aaron Judge for the Yankees that's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. If the Yankees get Soto, they're not going to be able to keep both. Not even them, with their financial resources, are going to be able to keep both. Soto still has 3 years left on the contract. They're not going to trade him again. That it would be out of the question. So the Dodgers, I think, are in the catbird seat, and they can just sit back and wait to see what the Yankees do. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they made an offer for Soto to just bump up the price in case the Yankees wanted to get him to make it more expensive for the Yankees to acquire him now. And if they do get Soto, where do you think Aaron Judge is going to be playing next year? I say the hat that I'm wearing.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
see.
it goes back to proprietary numbers and numbers. What's Judge's Q score versus Juan Soto's Q score, right? Earned.
Yep.
They did a really good podcast with Graham Honecker, who's in the gifts department at Butler. And off air, we were talking about kind of geekish earned advertising revenue, right? Because he was saying about Butler University, why they're in the Big East, and what's the real value of it. How much money can you put in your pocket, right? So how much is Cashman and crew, from a more earned marketing standpoint, going to put in their pocket versus John Soto, right? Which fans, we're going to talk about wins and losses. The Yankees really care, especially the younger kids, only care about the bottom line. And it's totally different. I had a Cuban restaurant in Nellis Park, Florida, on the way to the Tampa facility for the Yankees. And man, was it terrifying when George Steinbrenner came in, right? Because he was so focused. And if my sign was out, next day I would come in, George Steinbrenner would send somebody to fix the sign. And that's embarrassing. So I'm like, okay, George Steinbrenner, let's fix the sign right now. Right? And he separated things from his shipping company to the Yankees. The Yankees were fun. Now the Yankees, especially with the younger kids, Hank's dead. Can't believe Hank's dead. He was so young when I saw him, like 25 years ago. He's gone. He's dead. These younger people are bottom line. They're looking at that Q score. So if we knew what the Q score was, we would determine who was going to be on the Yankees next year. But again, run suppression, right, versus run creation. Judge's run creation, his body's getting older. He's stiff to begin with. But, man, we'd love to see the sluggers. He's putting extra seats, extra eyeballs during regular season games. Yeah. So you got to look at those numbers. Know the numbers, and you will know everything. If you knew those numbers, then you can make that position.
That's true. Well, before I let you guys go,
the Dodgers are all in on run suppression, and that has not won a World Series. Right?
It's true.
I don't know if we want to count 2020. I don't. Right? That's an oddball year. But the Rays never won a World Series. They got there, but they never won. And I know an NBA assistant coach who tells me analytics always runs into a brick wall. Right? So
there's no magical black box. I think I'm a firm believer of that, even though I am a numbers guy. You got to have some, as you would say, Josh, you got to have a PhD in common sense. You know, that's what you need. And Jesse Schule already has that. He was born with common sense. But before you guys go, I first wanted to thank you for your time. It's been a great debut for Josh and the three of us, and I just love doing these shows, period. But Jesse, any final thoughts? Anything you want to mention? Any shows you're going to be doing coming up? Any big plays that you want to mention? The floor is yours.
All right. Well, I guess I did get a really heartwarming DM from one of my followers on Twitter the other day. Mentioned he cashed a big free play and he was really appreciative. And it prompted me to check my overall record with free picks, and it is outstanding. We're talking dating back a decade. You'd be up 34 grand if you just played all my free picks that I've given out in my career. That's free money. I'm not charging anybody for that. So that's something worth promoting, and it's something worth following me for. So follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook or Instagram or whichever channel you can find me on.
Good stuff. Josh, what do you got going coming up this week? I know there's something planned on Wednesday, I think, with some guy.
Oh, yeah, very excited. I'm even more excited now that we've gotten to know you a little bit. Life is short. We're all going to die soon. So we got to take advantage of every day, have a lot of fun, right? So I love giving away picks. We live at $137 trillion economy just in the United States. There's money for everyone, right? So very excited about Wednesday, Big 12 and Independence with John. We're going to go through each team. Today I'm going to go over the AAC. Also, John's going to join us for the SEC podcast, which people went crazy over last year.
Can you believe that, Jesse? Me with the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Somehow you'll find a way to talk about Penn State, I'm sure.
Well, I did my Big Ten. I did my Big Ten, man. People went crazy over that one too. The Big Ten previews. My dad's a preacher, right? So there was that story that Jesus healed 10 people of leprosy. Only 2 came back to say thank you. And one of them was because he dropped a $20 bill and he knew Jesus would have it. So podcast listeners have reported 200,000 in the 3 years. Last year, they reported 100,000. That's probably like $1 million people have made. We give every pick for free. We have a college class, Madison, Wisconsin, Big Ten. It's in the syllabus to listen to the podcast for business and financial concepts, and an economics class, high school class in San Diego. It's in the syllabus to listen for business, financial, how to invest, the methodology to invest. So we're going to be loaded up on the NFC preview podcast. Jason, you're welcome to come on, where we're going to preview each team in the AFC as well. I'll give you details to come on. I think John's going to be on both of them. Very, very excited to break things down. And we're doing our part, right, to mitigate inflation. And we're doing our part to fight the recession with our people. The recession is going to be out there. There's no recession with people that are listening to us.
I can't agree more. It's a great way to end the show, Josh. So we'll do that right now. But I'm going to let Jesse take us out of here. He's going to do the closing here with 2 of my favorite things I like saying. But you know what? I like hearing other people say it.
All right, John. Well, before I give the closing, I just want to mention that I think you did a great job of pretending that you forgot to mention the Eagles on this show, because we all know that you don't get through a whole show without talking about a Philly team. But so good job there, John. But for all you guys out there following us, keep in mind, bet with your head and not over it, and may all the wins be yours.
Well done.